The Town That Dreaded Sundown, Bohemian Rhapsody and Kung Fu Killer, all coming up next on the Movie Burner Blog Rundown. And joining us as always is John, and we're going to start with a movie review by our senior writer Darren. That is called The Town That Dreaded Sundown from 2014, directed by Alfonso Gomez Rejon and written by Roberto Aguirre Sacasa and Errol E. Smith, and stars Addison Timlin, Veronica Cartwright and Anthony Anderson.
Well, first things first, Stephen, I'm very glad that you said those names. Clearly that coffee's helped you a great deal, because that was a whole lot of tongue twisters in there. My God, man. It's clearly written and directed by Latin American folks, I would have thought, with those names. Yeah. And indeed, we were just discussing Alfonso Gomez Rejon, and he's a chap that you're acquainted with, Stephen. He's a chap that I know very well too. I know him from his directing of 12 episodes of American Horror Story, and you also know him from Me and Errol and the Dying Girl, which you reviewed, I believe, last year. Right, So this is a guy who has done horror to some degree. He gets the genre, and here he's getting involved with a film that Darren describes as a sort of Blumhouse prequel sort of thing to what they did with Halloween. I say prequel sort of thing because this was out in 2014. I think it got a wide release in 2015, and he says it's a similar concept to what Blumhouse have done this year with Halloween, and that it takes an older film from maybe the 70s, in this case I believe it was the 70s, 1976 or something, Halloween was 78, and it rejigs it and rebrands it and then re-releases it in a different form. He says it's similar to Halloween as well in the sense that it's not a remake, it's a sequel that carries on from the original film. And he says it goes into a whole sort of a meta nonsense in the middle, where it's kind of a reference to the original film. The characters within this film are watching the original film within this film. It's very strange, it's all very Inception-like. And what the one big difference here is the fact that Halloween is also an absolute classic, which has been reworked and set up and re-released in this same universe, a quasi-sequel if you like. Darren says that this is also a cult classic, or a cult film from the 70s, so that's the only real fundamental difference between the two. But in terms of the story, it sounds intriguing enough. I don't know if I'd go out my way to try and find it unless it's on Netflix or something like that, but then I'd maybe give it a bash. I'm a fan of horrors. Darren kind of pummels it at the end. He says it's dives into a traditional sort of a slasher subgenre of the horror genre, which is not something I'm averse to either. I do like a good slasher. One of my favourite horror films from recently, last few years, was The Green Room, which was a siege slasher film. So it's an intriguing concept. It's all about murders, I believe. The plot itself is 65 years after a masked serial killer terrorised the small town of Texarkana. The so-called Moonlight Murders begin again. Is it a copycat or something even more sinister? So as I did say, it's kind of based around the serial killer, these murders, and then it obviously potting back up again. I don't know if it's this one. Darren says, because he's done 2 reviews in this show this week, but he says it kind of follows similar plot points to Seven. The one that sprang out to me really was Sigourney Weaver. I think it was a film by her, I'm sure, in the mid-90s or something, where there was a copycat killer. I can't remember the name of the film. It might not even have been Sigourney Weaver, but it was a copycat killer. She was involved in taking him down, getting him put in jail, and then he comes back and haunts her, essentially. But also, it's not the original killer, it's a copycat killer. So that was a similar concept. I'll let you in a minute, Stephen, but my first thoughts were this was like a western. When I seen the title, it screamed out western to me. And before I do let you in, this film's actually getting a bit of critical response in the film which preceded it in the 70s. It only get 40% from critics on Rotten Tomatoes and 40% from the audience. This one's getting 70% from critics, and there's quite a few more ratings in there, so very intriguing. I'd probably give it a bash if I could get my hands on it and I was bored. You look at the cast, and there's actually quite a few, as Darren alludes to himself, quite a few good character actors in there. The name again, it springs out to me, is Gary Cole, but I'll let you in and you can talk about maybe a few of the other names in there, Stephen.
Yeah, we were talking about Gary Cole last week, I think, John, or the week before, in regards to his his history in movies. He's always the memorable character that's not used too much. In this case, it's not Gary Cole. It's actually a character called Lone Wolf Morales, played by Anthony Anderson, that Darren says we would have liked to have saw a bit more of. I totally get that. Cool. Yeah, and Veronica Cartwright's in there as well. First movie I saw her in was Flight of the Navigator, and later on she appeared in the X-Files, the later episodes, as an alien abductee. She's a very good actress. And staying on the X-Files theme, Ed Lauter as well, who sadly passed away in 2013. I actually thought this was one of his last films. It should be if he died in 2013 and the movie came out in 2014, but he's actually got about 4 or 5 credits after this one.
Yeah, he's going all 2-pack.
Yeah, so
he was a busy boy.
You know, there's a great cast there, as Darren says.
Yeah.
It's a kind of a bad version of Zodiac as well. These copycat murders, you know, whether or not it's the same one that's doing them or not, but in Zodiac, obviously, you know, these serial killings had the markings of the previous serial killings from, you know, previous years, and I kind of get, you know, where this story's going, but this is a remake, isn't it, John? This is
it's based on, I think it was a 1976 film. I can't be completely sure of the movie release date, but I'm pretty sure it was a mid-70s.
Yeah.
But we've seen this done again with the likes of Death Wish and stuff like that. It's something that studios like to do. They go back and rehash classics or cult classics. But certainly Blumhouse seem to have this fixation with taking these classic or cult classic films and then rejigging them in a way but keeping them in the same universe. And it's almost like an ode to the original, but it stays in the same universe and it's a continuation of a story. So I haven't seen the original. Yeah,
Alfonso Gomez-Rejon, I think that's how you pronounce his name. I'm not sure, John, but the first movie I saw of his was Me and Eero and the Dying Girl. I don't know if you've seen this movie, John. It's a fantastic movie. This came out in 2015, so I reviewed it, I think, last year. It was on Netflix. I picked it up on, and it's again, he's dealing with a terrific cast again, the likes of Olivia Cooke, Nick Offerman, Thomas Mann's in there as well, some well-known faces.
Yeah, John Bernthal.
Yeah, he's just, I don't know what it is. He is a good director. That was a comedy, kind of dark comedy, where this is more of a sort of horror mystery. But as we see from his his CV, he's only done about 2, 3, 4 films. He's mostly in TV work, most notably, as you said, the American Horror Story and surprisingly Glee. So he's quite a varied director. He doesn't seem to just stick to the one genre. But it is what it is. I know Darren was quite disappointed just based on the review, how the film sort of turned out. You know, that final sort of third of the movie, I wouldn't go as far as saying clunky, because you can get away with clunky if the story's okay, but based on Darren's review, it sounds like the story, the plot to this just sort of lost its way near the end, sort of tapered off, which is sad, because if you've got a really good cast like that, it's really a waste.
Yes, as he says, the performances were good in the main, but the film was ruined by dumb script and lazy slasher movie filmmaking. Well, that is something of a recurring theme with the slasher horror subgenre films. They tend to be a little bit dumb. It's just the nature of them. Well, another thing he says as well, Stephen Alison Timlin is the main. She's a primary protagonist, and much of the film focuses around her. He does say she's the basic cookie cutter slasher survivor. She's all cliche and plot points. Well, you tend to find that in these films as well. There's always one character survives it all, and you know they're going to survive it. I always remember The House, the Haunted House or something. I can't remember what it was. That one with the guy. It was a murderer twirling the moustache. House on the Haunted Hill. You always knew who was going to survive that film all the way through. You knew they were surviving. And it was the same in this film. So I can get on board with what you're saying. Poor plot, poor writing in general. Just following the classic cliches of this genre. But the performances in the main are decent. So, but again, looking at his review and his rating, I says I may watch it if I was bored. I may give it a miss now, just looking at that rating, 3 out of 10. Even worse than IMDb.
Yeah, and just looking at one of those reviews, John, on Rotten Tomatoes, it does say it's not a straight remake of the 1976 cult horror movie The Town That Dreaded Sundown. It is more a self-referential homage that takes the original film's legacy and embellishes it. I think that's very kind. Certainly that's one of the more positive reviews on that site, but it's not a movie, based on Darren's review, I don't think it's one I'm going to be visiting anytime soon. Yes,
he says that in his review as well, Stephen, that it very much pays a lot of homage and references the original film quite a lot. as I did say, some of the characters even watch it at some point during the film, so it's all a bit Inception-esque. But we're going to move on to the next review, and it's a slightly more recent one. It's just out a couple of weeks. Bohemian Rhapsody from, of course, 2018. And this one has been reviewed by Philip Henry, of course, directed by, well, I want to say Dexter Fletcher, because Dexter Fletcher came in and took over the reins from Bryan Singer, who bailed out when all of the accusations started getting flung his way, disappeared off into the sunset. Dexter Fletcher didn't get credit, because that's just the rules.
Yeah,
once
the
a character,
union rules,
yeah, because I think this started with Clint Eastwood back in the 70s when he took over a Western film and then directed it, and it caused a bit of a controversy, so they sorted that out, so he's not got the credit, but Bryan Singer have directed a bit of it as well. In fairness, it's written by Anthony McCartan and Peter Morgan, and Anthony McCartan done the screenplay. Those two other bits I mentioned were the story itself. It stars Rami Malek, Lucy Boynton, Gwilym Lee, I can't say that name, I think that's a little guy from EastEnders who plays the drummer, whose name forgets me at the moment. But I digress, we all know about this one, Stephen. We know the plot. It's about the rise of Freddie Mercury, the performer, the man, and how he met Queen, how they went off to be one of the most successful rock bands in British and just music history in general. It follows his life from being a baggage handler in an airport somewhere. I don't know where the hell he was born, to be honest with you, because
Turkey,
was it Turkey?
I think so.
And all the way through to Live Aid in 1985. Now, also this film's been getting a bit of stick from a lot of critics over the last couple of weeks, who have been hammering it into the ground, probably because Bryan Singer directed some of it, and they don't like people who get accused of certain things, which is fair enough, but it doesn't really affect my opinion of the artistic merits of a film. I don't really care who's directed it. Once it's in the can and it's on the screen, you reference what's on the screen, not the dodginess of the man that put it on the screen, or some of it anyway. And I thought it was alright. I thoroughly enjoyed the way they utilised the music, the way they recreated some of the live shows, the way that Rami Malek just personified Freddie Mercury, stepped into the shoes, really looked like him, delivered an authentic performance of what the guy was going through. Also, it didn't go deep. That was one of the other criticisms. They wanted it to be all about the more personal stuff going on with Freddie Mercury. They wanted to dive into the troubles of obviously being diagnosed with AIDS and just how that affected his life after that. They don't do that in this film. He gets diagnosed with AIDS and then it goes off into a high note. They go into the sunset at Live Aid. Yeah. So I can get on board with that. It doesn't get into it too much, but what it did do was it focused on the loneliness of the man. You see that perfectly round about the middle of the film. He's bought an 18-room mansion in London. He's at the pinnacle of his success. He's writing hit after hit after hit. The band are just massive. And here he is, he's phoning up his estranged wife and flicking lights to get her attention. He's just sitting on his own, so he's getting all these cretins in to fill his life. And he even references it himself. He says, these people are not really my friends, they're just basically hangers on. So it did get into some of the darker sides of his personality. It didn't go too deep though, and you don't expect that in a film like this. This is about the man, the performer, as I said before, the music and the success.
Listen, John, see, Brian May, Roger Taylor, not so much John Deacon.
Yeah.
You know, they've got a duty to Freddie Mercury and his legacy and the legacy of Queen. Listen, we see this time and time again with bands. It's interesting to see that, you know, Philip mentioned the Doors, the Oliver Stone, that you know Ray Manzarek, he hated the biopic, you know, the Doors movie. That's the fine line that you're dealing with when it's real life and real music and real, you know, musicians and artists. You know,
probably hated it, Steve, because it focused on Morrison. That was Jim Morrison, wasn't it?
Yeah.
So it focused on him heavily and probably didn't give them much limelight. But the reality of the situation is the Doors were Jim Morrison. You take him away and they ain't the same band.
And to be fair to Brian May and Roger Taylor, you know, they seem to have taken a back step. I think they want to protect their legacy, but at the same time, you know, they want to honour Freddie as well in this movie, and I get that, you know, and I can understand why a lot of people are a bit annoyed. There's large chunks of you know, Queen's history being missed out here. Very similar to a movie that I reviewed last year based on the Beach Boys and Brian Wilson, Love and Mercy, that starred John Cusack and Paul Dano. It was a tremendous film which sort of focused on Paul Dano played the early Brian Wilson in the 1960s, which was really fascinating. I thought he did a great job on that.
He's a good actor, that did.
And John Cusack, he did the portrayal of the older Brian Wilson in the 1980s, totally skipping the 1970s, which apparently...
I think he skipped the 1970s.
Yeah, well, exactly. It's probably because Brian Wilson doesn't remember much of the 70s, because apparently, he was in his bed for about 3 years suffering from depression and drug addiction.
Yeah, that was Paul McLaughlin that did that to him, wasn't it?
Thanks to Sergeant Pepper. But I digress. So I understand why the movies went in that direction. It would have been interesting to see Sacha Baron Cohen's version of Freddie Mercury. It might have been pretty depressing stuff, but it might have been a little bit more gritty, a bit more risky.
Yeah.
Would it have pulled the audience he's in as well? I don't know. I doubt that very much. And you might have probably... Brian May and Roger Taylor might have took exception to that kind of direction. I think they did, because I think they did step away. I think they parted ways with the actor at that point anyway, in the early 2000 or even the 2010s. I think it was maybe.
It was going on for about 8 years.
Yeah, it's been on for quite a while, isn't it? And I mean, I think it's a shame that Dexter Fletcher doesn't really get any credit at all. Although we know just through the grapevine that he stepped in to finish the film. Silly union rules, I've got to say, in this case. He's a terrific director as well, good actor, and it's a shame that he doesn't get any sort of credit at all. I mean, at least the likes of Lord and Miller get some producing credits on the Solo movie. I don't think Dexter Fletcher's got anything. I'd have to actually see the credits, but I think it's a shame. But I think he's just one of these guys that just, it's another box he's ticked, I suppose, in his directorial career. But we're going to move on, John, to our final review this week, and it's coming in from our senior writer once more, Darren, and this is a movie from 2014 starring Donnie Yen, and this was written by Teddy Chan, who also directed this movie, and its original title is Yi Jen Ren Di Wu Lin, and it's Kung Fu Killer.
Well, again, I'm glad you said that, not me. I just look at that director's name, and for some reason it cracks me up. Teddy Chan. Don't know why. Just seeing Teddy next to a clearly Asian, Japanese or Chinese surname. It seems wrong to me for some reason. I don't know why.
Walter Wong.
Yeah, exactly. Walter Wong. Something like that. It's just bizarre. But the plot is about a martial arts instructor from the police force. He gets imprisoned after killing a man by accident. But when a vicious killer starts targeting martial arts masters, the instructor offers the help to help the police in return for his freedom. So this is also a Donnie Yen film, as you did say, Stephen. Darren is a big fan of Donnie Yen. He doesn't think he gets the love or attention he should in North America, that he's a great action star and a solid actor, and I completely agree. I don't think he gets the love and attention that he deserves in the United Kingdom either. You think of a martial artist sort of actor over the last 10, 15, 20 years.
Yeah.
Over here, most people would say Jackie Chan or Jet Li.
Yeah, Jet Li,
Totally... He doesn't exist over here, really, which is a shame.
Well, it did
he's
appear
incredible.
in Return of Xander Cage last year, John. But apart from that, you're right. He's one of these actors. I know him mostly from the Ip Man trilogy. I believe there's another one in the works, which I'm thrilled about because I thought they were great movies. I really thought that when he appeared in Rogue One, that would be sort of the one that sort of projected him into more mainstream movies. We saw it with, as you mentioned, John, Jet Li. I think one of the... I knew his... Because I'm a big martial arts fan, I knew about his films before he sort of went mainstream with Lethal Weapon 4, I think it was, he appeared in, and that kind of set him on a different path. It was more commercial films rather than independent Asian films and stuff like that. And it's certainly not the same thing that's happened with Donnie Yen, unfortunately. No. I think he's a terrific actor. I think he's got a good sense of humour. His humour reminds me of Bruce Lee. That kind of a dry humour that he adds into his movies, even in the most serious situations. And this movie, Darren says that there's it's a bit clunky and stuff like that, but you expect that from a martial arts movie anyway. I think clunkiness in Enter the Dragon, for heaven's sake, you know.
Yeah.
There's some pacing issues in there, a lot of flashbacks and stuff like
nature, that. Isn't it, of fighting?
Yeah, you can't constantly fight in these movies. But what I did like, what Darren says is, the there is a lot of respect given to kung fu here. This is one of the things that I don't like about Jackie Chan films. He's a terrific martial artist, a very skilled man, but his films in the 70s and 80s were comedies.
Yeah.
I've got all respect for Jackie Chan as an actor and a stuntman. A lot of people forget he did a lot of these mad stunts himself. If you're ever watching these films, he did a lot of these stunts himself. But the humour took over the martial arts. I don't mind, as I said, Donnie Yen, Jet Li as well, and Bruce Lee put humour into their kung fu films rather than the other way around that Jackie Chan did. He's
kung fu into
into the comedy. But I like. I've not seen this movie. Didn't even hear of it, which I'm surprised about because it's just as I said, I do like the martial art movies from Donnie Yen, and I don't know this one. I'm certainly going to check it out. It's certainly a film it's on my radar now. But I'll let you in anyway, John, to give your thoughts on this.
Yeah, well, you look at some of the ratings on the Rotten Tomatoes, Stephen. It's one of those rare things where the audience members don't seem to like it quite as much as the critics. But I say that it's still getting a very decent 3.4 out of 5. So it's clearly an average to above average film. The top critics gave it 67%, equivalent of 7.7 out of 10. All critics 72%, equivalent of 6.7 out of 10, which is a bit strange. They're getting a higher tomato score, a percentage, but the actual rating translating into 10 is below the top critics, which had a lower percentage rating. Can't get my head around that one. I don't even want to try. I've never seen it either. It sounds very intriguing. The plot sounds like almost like something out of a Dirty Harry film where you've got this morally ambiguous protagonist coming in to try and save the day against this rogue chap that's going about causing carnage and murder and mayhem. But you mix that with Donnie Yen and just classic martial arts choreographed action sequences. Sounds right up my street. I love martial art films as well. I love the way they're slick and the way they just move. Certainly the Chinese ones, as you did say, Hitman and stuff like that. They're on another level to what we see over in the West. It's just
you're right, John. See what you're saying about there. We were talking about this the other day as well about wire work and stuff like that when we were talking about Raymond Chow. You're right. I like real martial arts. I don't like wire work at all. I think it's pretentious and it's. Mr. Bean is doing these adverts just now here in the UK for Snickers, and it's
you when you're hungry.
And it just sums it up.
There's a good outtake involving that, Stephen. One of our earlier shows when I says, you know what you're getting in a ninja film. And I didn't mean that at all. And then that came into my head right away, Mr. Bean. But you're right about the wire working. But if it's done right, you've seen it in Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon. I'm sure
it's one of the rare films that do it right.
It tends to be the Chinese-made films. They know what they're looking for. They know exactly. Appreciate that a lot more than people in the West. I would presume it's a real love of theirs over there, so they know how to do good fighting, slick action sequences, and they does say that's one of the big positives of this film. It's got a real intensity. The fights are top notch. There's a sense of urgency that a lot of action films over here lack. Donnie Yen not only anchors the film, but he anchors the fights, and I love that what he says as well, that he's taking lots of martial arts legends from past films and just from the past in general, and he's popping them in there in cameo roles, so that's great. Obviously this guy is taking out of the martial artists and people who are the best in their field, so I presume they're taking these classic figures and putting them into the roles of the martial artists that are getting killed off. Donnie Yen steps in, obviously ends the bitch, because that's clearly what's going to happen. He's just a man. To me, he's the closest thing to Bruce Lee in today's day and age. But he does say some of the subplots were a little bit clunky, and they did slow the film down a little bit, as you did say. That's just something you're going to get. The romance is very cliched and adds nothing to the film. You need to do that though. You have to add in something to the side. You can't just have fight. I watched a Bruce Lee film recently. I can't remember what the hell it was called. It wasn't that great. Something like The Year of a Dragon or something. I can't remember. And it was like it was some guy coming over, white guy coming over, and he sets up a fight between Bruce Lee and some other guy. It was strange, it was bizarre, but that was the same. I had to add in some nonsense, some made up crap to the story to give it a sense of just fatten it up a little bit. You can't just have fights. You have to add something going on inside. And as you did say, even Bruce Lee's films had a degree of clunkiness as well. It's just the nature of it.
When they add a love interest or romantic parts into any of these type of genres, it's very haphazard and lazy, because it's not really what the filmmakers that interested in, especially if they're big martial art fans. You know, they just want to, you know, have as much action as possible, and when they throw sometimes it can be jarring that they throw in maybe a romantic interest or whatever, and you're like, what's happening now? You know, it kind of kills the pace as well. So I understand what you're saying about it being a little clunky, but that comes part and parcel with martial arts movies. The other thing that comes part and parcel with lots of Cantonese films is you're either going to get it in Cantonese with subtitles, or it's going to be dreadful dubbing. We saw it in Fist of Fury. This time it is paper, the next time it will be glass. Thankfully, the DVDs and the Blu-rays give you the option of switching the audio.
I'd rather have subtitles.
And I grew up with the dubbing, but as you grow older, you get really tired of it very quickly, and it's not nice hearing and seeing Bruce Lee sounding like John Wayne. It doesn't match up at all. So you've got the option in your DVD or Blu-ray to switch it to Cantonese and, you know, read the subtitles, which I prefer doing anyway. I think it gives it more of an authentic feel as well.
Yeah, final thing I'll add is just a comment he makes about wishing some of the earlier fights were longer, that some of the masters held out a little bit more against Wang, also the antagonist. That just springs up memories of Revenge of the Sith, but also the three Jedi masters roll up to confront... Yeah, Kit Fisto roll up to confront Emperor Palpatine alongside Mace Windu, and he just kills him with seconds. They don't even put up a fight, he just kills him instantly. Mace Windu also takes the fight. So in this case, Donnie Yen's Mace Windu, and these other guys, they're Kit Fisto and the other goons that get wiped out immediately. But listen, this is a film I'm intrigued in. I'd definitely give it a bash. I'd watch it just for Donnie Yen alone, so I'll try and find this. Sadly, I don't think it's on Netflix anymore. Darren says that it's disappeared also. I may need to find some other way of getting my hands on it. Maybe eBay it or something, I don't know, Stephen.
I'm sure it'll be out there, John. But that just wraps up this week's edition of Movie Burner Blog Rundown, where we've been talking about the town that dreaded Sundown, Bohemian Rhapsody and Kung Fu Killer. Just like to thank you once again for joining us, and we'll be back tomorrow with the Force Friday show.
Remember guys, if you enjoyed that latest episode, then do hit that like button, comment below, and maybe subscribe to the channel if you haven't done already. If you want to follow us on social media for all the latest updates from Movie Burner Entertainment, then we can be found on Twitter and Facebook at Movie Burners. You can also listen to us on Google Play and iTunes at the Movie Burner Podcast. And last but not least, if you want to access all the latest written reviews and the occasional article, then that can be found on our website at movieburnerintertainment.org. Until next time, goodbye.